Hello, everybody. My name is Mark Fortin. I'm with Michigan Matters. Um, this is April 1st, 2026, and I'd like to start off by discussing the convention, the Republican convention in Novi last Saturday. In that convention, a number of nominees for the Republican Party for the November election was selected by the delegates, state board of education type things and so on, a couple judges and that kind of thing. And the top of it was the Attorney General and Secretary of State. Now, the winners were Doug Lloyd for Attorney General, and Tony Ferlini for Secretary of State. Now, Michiganders will be looking at other races, local and so on, but the governors will be the top of the ticket. And naturally, that will all be decided, all the rest of the races, U.S. Congress, Senate, all that type of thing, and the governors, that will be determined in the August primary. Now, naturally, they had some governor candidates speaking at the convention. So, the most notable, there wasn't all of them, there's quite a bit of candidates, but the most notable was speeches by Ralph Rebandt and John James. Now, John James is the supposed front runner. Everybody up until now has been talking that way until Mr. Johnson entered the race, and he seems to be a very formidable candidate, and he spoke. But John James spoke. Now, John James is a supposed front runner. He was booed by a large number of delegates, which was very interesting. The only one that received that kind of response as he walked up to the podium. Now, he spent very little time, didn't see him walking around the floor at all before or afterwards, and he left right away, which is his MO. He's known for that. Now, you remember that he vacated his seat as the rep to the Michigan's 10th Congressional District against the wishes of the president. The president wanted him to stay. The president naturally wants to maintain the House, but he wouldn't do it. He had to run for governor. Now, it's no loss to the district. Now, it opens the district up, and we have some good candidates running in that district. So there's no doubt that the district will improve because any one of those candidates that win will be an improvement over Mr. James, who has a very dismal voting record. But then we come to the other hand. The more positive thing was Ralph Rebandt running for governor. Ralph gave a speech that was absolutely phenomenal, and it's only about 6 minutes long. And we're going to play that for you right now.
I've been a pastor in this state for 35 years, helping families who did everything right, and yet this state and the politics in it has failed them. I am done watching that happen. I was raised in Woodhaven, Michigan. I've worked in factories, I've built homes. I've done so many things in my life, started businesses, planted churches, but most importantly, I raised a family that loves Jesus, loves America, and loves Michigan. I have lived the family dream, the American dream. I'm not a politician who discovered working people who vote 6 months before the election. I've invested 40 years into Michigan families, and I will not step back and watch them be lied to by politicians who promise things they will never deliver, and nor will I stand back and watch politicians who never show up try to represent those people. Lansing politicians, friends, you know this, have been bought and sold. And what have we gotten out of it? Absolutely nothing. Money is never a substitute for real change. I believe change can and will happen. I promise you today that property tax forcing Michigan families to pay rent on their homes will be abolished when I'm governor. I promise that any state employee that signs a non-disclosure agreement will be fired on the spot. And I promise you that parents, not radical unions, not liberal school boards, will be in charge of their children's education and their medical information. Friends, I will be the most loyal partner that Donald Trump has ever had in a state office. My opponents have called him unfit for office. They've also endorsed his opponents. He needs a partner in Michigan that will support his principles, and I am that partner. I'm not saying that because it's the right thing to say in this room. I'm saying it because it is the right thing. Friends, our children are leaving the state. They're not leaving because Michigan isn't beautiful. They're leaving because Lansing politicians stopped working for them and started eating the bloated budgets. I will not let that happen to your children and grandchildren in Michigan as governor. And I have one more thing that my opponents that don't have. I have the moral courage to fight. I will fight. I'm not emboldened to special interests. I will fight without answering to them. I will fight without needing something in return. I will fight without focusing on the next political election, because it's not about the next election, it's about you. I'm running for governor of Michigan, my friends, because your children and grandchildren deserve a second chance at the American dream. If we keep electing political professionals to run this state for governor, if we keep electing people who could care less by sending businessmen and women, more attorneys, they've already had their chance to try to fix the state.
That's right.
You keep sending them, your grandkids won't have a second chance at the American dream. Friends, I'm Ralph Rebandt. I showed up before the cameras were there. I've been working for you for 40 years. And I will hang around long after those cameras are gone. It is my calling to represent you in Michigan, in Lansing. The establishment doesn't want a conservative Christian pastor on the ballot. I can tell you that. They didn't want it in 2022. They don't want it now. And they will do everything they can to keep my name off of polling, off of pictures, anything. They will keep my name off of it. But you know what's crazy? They want your vote. They know that you won't be able to, they won't get into office without your vote. Friends, you need to rethink who you're voting for. I will be that person that calls for transparency, honesty, integrity in office, so much so that your children and grandchildren want to become governor of Michigan. On this 250th anniversary of our country, our founders pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. I pledge that to every one of you in this room today and everyone who lives in Michigan.
What did you think of that as a governor candidate? The message itself. It was exciting. It was super well received by the delegates. And it was also received by some very important people in a very positive way. Representative Matt Maddock, one of Michigan's better representatives, he said that Pastor Rebandt had a heart of gold. That was very kind to him. But also, John Yob. John Yob has always been a very important name in Michigan politics. And he said Ralph Rebandt deserves credit for having a strong grassroots organization. He had far more support at the convention than John James. It wasn't even close. And then Ralph Rebandt's competitor, Perry Johnson. Perry Johnson also gave a good speech, and he has a lot of support. And his name is new into this run. It's not too late by any means to enter, but I'm just saying he recently entered the race, so to speak, and he gave a very good speech himself. But he said, I want to congratulate Ralph Rebandt on a successful convention. He had very significant support of the delegates. We may be competitors in this race, but he deserves our respect for his hard work and strength of his message. Now, we are going to be very blessed in that our next podcast next week, Ralph Rebandt will be with us. We'll get to talk to him about it and everything. And I think that it's going to be a very good podcast next week. I'm not sure if he'll be actually with us or zooming in, but we're not sure about that yet. But anyway, I just want to go on to a last subject. I don't want to go on too long. This is going to be a short video. But this one here, I have to calm myself, okay? It's about our United States Congress, which also bleeds across into Lansing in some areas because there's not much representation there either. But the United States Congress, to me, right now, is a total and utter and complete disaster. And I mean both sides of the, what Pat Buchanan called the bird of prey, known as the United States Congress, with its left and right wings. But anyway, the United States Senate, led by Toombs, for weeks now, should have been done a long time ago. This should have been uniting Democrats and Republicans. I have never ever seen this country so united on an issue as the SAVE Act. Now, this afternoon, I wanted to look up some numbers, so I got online, and I'm not the greatest researcher, and I'm trying to find out the latest polls on how Americans feel. So I thought I'd try AI. I was on Google, and I asked this wonderful AI system. I forget the actual verbiage, but I said something like, I want to have the polling numbers for the American people about the SAVE Act. And it popped up with all kinds of little garbage pieces about what we should know about the SAVE Act, how this one can't vote and that one can't, the typical left-wing crap. I had to ask it 3 times different ways, and I finally got results. So let's look at these results. Now, I want you to remember something, that you and I live in the United States of America. We live in a constitutionally protected republic, not a democracy. Everybody, Republicans and Democrats, call it a democracy. A democracy means that the whole world can get together and violate your rights, pass laws violating your rights. A constitutional republic is limited. We cannot violate each other's rights, that we have to live under a constitution that limits that ability. So, it's a representative. These people take an oath to the Constitution of the United States, the Democrats and Republicans. So, let's start with the Democrats. 71% of Democrats support the SAVE Act. 71%. That's a huge number in the area of politics. That's Democrats. Where are the Democrat senators on this bill? 95% of Republicans do. 95% of Republicans. Where's Mr. Thune at? Who I will not call Senator. I will not respect him with the name Senator. That connotes some kind of actual leadership, in my opinion. But anyway, Thune is leading this pack of wolves, and they are not doing it. Now, but what about the independents? What about American people in general? The general, like me, oaf in the furrow, so to speak. How do they feel about all this? Well, I'll tell you what, according to the wonderful Google AI, 83 to 84% of American voters support the SAVE Act. Now, I'm going to tell you what's going on here. Eventually, these people are trying to protect themselves, all of them. They got a thing going. They're part of the deep state, and they don't care about Trump. They don't care about you. Okay? 70-some million Americans like you and me supported Donald Trump. And believe me, if he loses the House and or Senate, he will be impeached. The borders will be open. The money will start flowing again. Everything will start the way it was under that senseless, brain-dead Biden. So these are the numbers, folks. Where is our representative government? And don't let the House off the hook either. I'm going to give an opinion, right? This is not a news show, okay? This is an opinion thing. And my opinion is this, that if the Speaker of the House, if he knew this would breeze through the Senate, it never would have passed the House. I'm sorry, I believe that. Look at the House members. Look at people like Rand Paul and all these guys. They're all against the president. Well, the Republicans they are very happy being a minority party. They can live with that real fine as long as Trump's gone. And they'll go back to their promises in raising money and then try to get winning again. But right now, the world is against our president, and he is changing the world. And ladies and gentlemen, you and I, no matter who they are, we got to get behind. I'm talking about Michigan mostly, but if someone else listening to this is the same thing. It doesn't matter if your House member is good, bad, or indifferent, or your senator or whatever. We have to keep the majority in the House. We have to keep the majority in the Senate. We got to get the Republicans through this thing, even if they're rats. Even if I lived in Dakota, I would be right now hoping and praying someone would challenge Thune. But if he wins the primary, I'd be pushing to keep the majority as rotten as he is, because Trump has to maintain the majority. Forgive me for being so negative about this, but I feel I have a right to be, and so do you. I mean, 80% of the American people want this. When have we been more unified on anything? Anyway, I want to bring up an important thing too about the convention, if I can go back to that subject. At the convention, we had a loss of a great patriot guy, a volunteer, a great delegate, Jeff Ford. The Friday night, or very early in the morning, I should say, on Saturday morning before the convention actually started, he passed away. And it's a big loss for most of us. He's Southeastern Michigan guy. But anyway, so I'd like to keep his family in your prayers. It's really sad. Also, I wanted to also wish all of you a fantastic and wonderful, blessed Easter. In my mind, Easter ought to be the first national holiday. Our 1776, we have a holiday for the country, 250th year, but it's Christianity that gave birth to the country. So the resurrection and passion of Jesus Christ led 1700 years later to the greatest republic in the history of man, where every individual's rights are protected by God, protected by the government given by God. Our rights come from our Creator. Government's job, and they're failing miserably right now, is to protect those rights. But God bless you all. Have a blessed Easter, and thank you for being with us. And we'll see you next time.